Now then, you're very welcome back. So we are going to check in on events over in Italy where there is lots going on. Who better to talk to than Paddy Agnew, World Soccer Italy correspondent? You're there, Paddy.
I'm here. Good evening to you all.
Great to have you with us. Like I said, there is lots going on, lots we want to talk to you about. As the table suggests, we have a nice two-way battle between Juventus and Inter Milan taking shape 11 games in. Juve 1 point clear of Inter. We might start though with Mario Balotelli. People may have seen the headlines that a Verona fan, part of their ultras, was banned from games until 2030 for racist comments towards Mario Balotelli. There was an ugly incident at the weekend. You might tell us what happened.
Well, yeah, I mean, the boy Balotelli is not new to creating headlines, and he did it on Sunday. It was these days he plays for Brescia, right? Who are at the wrong end of Serie A at the moment, and they were an away game against Verona in Verona. They he gets the ball about 10 minutes into the second half. He gets the ball near Verona corner flag, and as he does. There are a whole series of not particularly loud, but certainly audible monkey chants, racist chants go up, and Balotelli simply loses his cool. He stops playing, picks up the ball, and looks up at the area of the terraces where the chants are coming from, and kicks the ball up there. And if he does, then we have 4 or 5 minutes of confusion as the referee suspends the game for a while. And eventually the game resumes, and Verona win the match 2-1 with that one goal being scored. A brilliant goal it was too by Balotelli, but to no avail. But the arguably the most polemical aspect of this incident is that the Verona coach, the Verona club president, appeared to suggest that there was no real racist chanting going on. It was just good-natured banter or stuff like that, and that they basically tried to downplay the incident. One, and secondly, much more importantly, Luca Castellini, the ultra fan that you mentioned in the introduction, the guy who's been given the ban, he gave an interview to a local radio station yesterday morning in which he said that, well, that guy Balotelli, I mean, he just, he's coming to the end of his career. Next year he'll probably be on TV acting the prima donna. So, I mean, he wanted to create a bit of publicity. And, as far as I'm concerned, anyway, Balotelli, Balotelli's not really. He's got Italian citizenship, all right, but he's not really Italian. And he went on all along those lines. So it's got to be said, this guy Castellini is a member of a right-wing group, a party, a right-wing political force called Forza Nova, and he's not new to statements like this. He's already had problems with the Football Federation about his behaviour grounds. So it wasn't a surprising statement from him. What was surprising was that the local radio was happy to offer him a platform to say things like that.
And presumably at that stage, the manager and the president of Verona couldn't really deny that there were racist things being said. Was it at that point when the local radio interview went out that Verona banned him, or who's banned this guy?
Well, he's been banned by the Football Federation's Observatory on ground behaviour. So, in other words, it's a Football Federation ban, and he's got what's called a DASPO, which is basically you're banned from going to any football match for one season, or in his case, 15 seasons.
So Verona themselves didn't actually step in and say, do you know what? Having heard the radio interview, we're going to do what's so obviously right here and ban this guy. I mean, 11 seasons, he got off lightly. He should be banned for life if Verona were keen to stamp this out. So actually, this reflects very badly on their hierarchy.
Well, it reflects badly on not just Verona. It reflects badly on other clubs who have traditionally had an ambiguous relationship with some of their hardcore fans, because the hardcore fans are the guys who go to the away matches, the guys who provide real support from the teams playing in difficult away fixtures. But that doesn't excuse any of it. It's just that it's a problem which some people in high places in Italian football are still a bit slow to understand the full significance of it.
And a brief tangent just for a moment. You mentioned that he was on local radio, Castellani, this ultra.
Yeah.
Is it routine beyond, I kind of a moment of controversy like this with Balotelli, where I presume he was on to talk about that situation. Parking that for a second, I'm always amazed at the influence that ultras continue to have on the continent. Is it a routine thing for ultras to be on local radio, given their views on where their respective clubs are going?
The answer is yes. Certain radios, certain radios, their entire economy revolves around the local football team, and hardcore supporters, ultra supporters, are going to be appearing regularly in those transmissions.
Yeah, and they're asked, but it's a notch above the football fan phone-in culture that might be there in the UK. These ultras would almost be known to the people listening to the radio, and they would have a more of an influence than somebody just ringing up 5 Live of a weekend.
Absolutely, they're not everyday supporters. They're not any old supporter in the street. They're guys who are involved in the basically the organized fan trips, organized fan behavior. They may well be involved in the buying and selling of the club merchandise. They may well be involved in other aspects of the club affairs. That's not always clear. But what is certain is that they are people with a certain influence. And it would also seem certain, and the Ministry of the Interior have said this many times, that they see people like Castellini. He sees football and football fans as a perfect recruitment ground for guys that he could use in his political movement further on down the road. That his long-term aim is not football. His long-term aim is right-wing politics.
Okay. As for Balotelli, we don't often talk about him these days. He's at Brescia. It might seem like a random club for him to pitch up at, but that's where he was raised, I understand. That's where he grew up, Balotelli, right. So nostalgic reasons. How's his form generally? How's he doing generally?
Well, he missed out on so much football last season that he's still not anything like 100% fit. I've only seen him play twice. I saw him play against Napoli. He scored a good goal against Napoli when he's still a big man up front, and he got up in the air for a headed goal. But he's still a bit slow. He's still short of match fitness. But the news today is that Roberto Mancini, the Italian national team coach, he's got 2 games coming up, 2 European qualifiers, which don't matter to him because Italy have already qualified. And there's indications they might call up Balotelli just to get him back into the atmosphere of the national team, and maybe maybe with a view to having him in the squad for next summer.
Okay. So I mentioned at the outset then, Juventus are on 29 points, Inter Milan are on 28 points, 11 games in. Inter and Conte, their challenge being spearheaded by Lukaku. So I'm seeing he has scored a record set by Ronaldo. He's got 9 goals in 11 Serie A games. This is suiting Lukaku down to the ground. Is he playing as well as all that suggests?
Well, he is, and he's one of the reasons why he's scoring the goals is because the team's playing a 3-5-2 lineup, in which one of the main ideas, lads, is to get the ball up front to either Lautaro or Lautaro Martinez, the Argentine, or to Lukaku, and they've both been in very, very good form. They scored a lot of goals between them, and Lukaku at this point, it's a lot of money was spent on him, and looks like it was money well spent.
And how are Juventus shaping up then? Is this how things are going to go across the course of the season? Do we expect Inter to be able to keep pace with Juve?
I don't know. That's a good question, but at the moment they're the only side that look like they can possibly keep pace with them, because Napoli already appear to have, they got beaten by Roma on Saturday. They're already appear to have dropped off the pace a bit, and there's no other side. It looks like a 2-horse race already. The one thing you would, 2 things I'd say about Inter. One is that they have there's a lot of hunger there, and they've got a very hungry coach in Antonio Conte,
Yeah.
and he might be able to sustain the challenge. The problem, to my mind, it would probably do them good if they were if their Champions League run were to end a bit prematurely, because I don't think they've got enough squad strength, and certainly Conte doesn't think they've got enough squad strength to go through a whole season in which they're battling both for the Serie A title and for Champions League, quarter final place, semi final.
As for Juventus, Matthias de Ligt I saw scored in their comeback at the weekend. They beat Torino.
Yeah.
2-1. De Ligt is obviously a player I think everybody's quite interested in. We're expecting huge things from him. So he scored a goal. I presumably he's settling in. What about Sarri and Juventus? Because as I'm sure you know, the Sarri thing never quite caught fire at Chelsea, and even neutrals looking at Chelsea, it never quite worked. It never quite made sense. So how are things going at Juve? Obviously he was ill for a couple of weeks.
Well, no, the illness doesn't seem to have had any negative effects. I mean, the team is bit by bit beginning to absorb his ideas, and they're playing a more offensive, a faster passing, quicker moving game than was played by Allegri, and a lot less pragmatic, a lot less cynical. But they're not there yet, and they only managed to win on Saturday with a penalty in the 95th minute of the game. So I mean, they are. Sarri has not finished. They're not the finished work as far as Sarri is concerned. But all the indications are that they will be by the end of the season a very serious force.
Are we seeing much of Aaron Ramsey, Paddy?
We haven't seen Ramsey hasn't played too much. I saw him on the weekend, and he's looking good. I think he's going to play this week in the Champions League.
Okay, there's quite a few Premier League players are doing rather well over there. We mentioned Lukaku and Alexis Sanchez injured, unfortunately for him. Chris Smalling, Smaldini is what I'm hearing. Paddy, Smaldini.
Yeah, well, Smalling is one player I have seen because he plays for Roma. And I've seen his last two games, and I found him really good. I was very impressed by him. I think he's a really solid defender. Reads the game well. You can see that he's a very experienced player. He settled into Roma very well. I think he's going to have a very, very good season.
Yeah, because I mean, initially they were looking at Alderweireld and Dejan Lovren. Through 6 Serie A appearances, no opponent, I was reading, has dribbled past him. He has made a 100% tackle rate. Obviously, stats can be a bit silly in many respects, but still, they're not bad stats. And they've kept a number of clean sheets when he's tended to play. It was interesting, he was talking himself, Chris Smalling. He said in England, quite often you have to deal with just one striker. So you've got your other 2 central defenders covering you. He said often here in Italy, you can be left 2-on-2 a lot of the time. There's a lot more runs in behind you being made as well. I'm enjoying it. I quite like the tussle, and I like a sprint against a striker. It definitely suits my game. So he's feeling much better about life too.
Yeah. Well, he plays like a player who's enjoying himself. He made one in the game against Napoli on Saturday. He made one absolutely fantastic save. Clearing a ball off the line with an overhead kick, which was the sort of goal saver that only player can pull off when they're in really very good form.
Yeah, and so Napoli are down in 7th at the moment. They're already adrift of Juve and Inter Milan. Roma are next in line in 3rd. I presume there's a seismic enough gap between Roma and certainly Juventus, whatever about Inter.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. There's a 2-horse race. Juventus and Inter are going to have a competition all to themselves, and Roma and Lazio and Napoli and Atalanta will fight for 3rd and 4th place, but they'll be a long way behind. They'll be far off the pace.
Yeah, and Conte and Sarri, I presume they're fairly respectful of each other. Anything interesting or notable about their relationship as they go head to head?
No, there are no polemics there. They are both pretty level-headed guys, actually. And there's not going to be. I don't think you're going to have any problems of that sort. What you have at the moment is both of them complaining about this time of year when they're playing a match every 3 days between Champions League and Serie A. And Conte in particular is arguing that the Inter have got to give him a couple extra players in the January transfer window, or we're not going to go anywhere, lads.
The the same as every manager the world over. The same
Yeah,
two
yeah,
complaints.
absolutely. Never heard that before.
Yeah. Paddy, great stuff. Great to have you on. We'll check in, obviously, across the course of the season. Thanks so much.
Thank you.